Good evening, folks. Greg from the Countryman's Diary here, just checking everything's working again. Yeah, we've had too many technical problems in this. Right, this week's podcast, I brought my chopper out, but as you can see, folks, mine's only a little one. Our guest tonight's known for his big chopper, aren't you, Slacky?
Extremely big chopper.
Oh, look at the size of that beast.
Or I've got really big hands.
It might be the big hands and Doncaster hands of yours.
Yeah, that's it, like shovels. Pit hands.
Big hands. Now, for all the people that don't speak Doncasterian, we've got subtitles, all right?
You mean Yorkshire? Not Doncaster, Yorkshire.
Hey up, lad, out for now. Thank you.
Bit that, pit.
Don't. Half of our bloody listeners are southern, you confuse them.
All right. I'll say
And
no
I've got
more.
to be careful, my old dear's from Lancashire, so. Right, so we have Matt Slack from Slacky's Butchers. You've probably seen him on all your social media. Normally comparing the price of meat with certain branded supermarkets and winning hands down, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, we are winning hands down. I think supermarkets have got a lot to answer for now. They've lost their way massively. I think 5 years ago they had monopoly on job, but I think now, especially since COVID, with people learning how to cook and having all the ninjas and all the fancy air fryers and that, they're wanting good stuff to put in it. And I think that's why they're going back to good butchers, good farm shops. The problem is there's still quite a lot of bad butchers and a lot of bad farm shops out there as well. So we need to oust them as well as supermarkets.
Yes, that's the problem. The trouble is these, I'll call them discount meat stores because they're not butchers, are they?
No, they're buying out of date, frozen, foreign muck and passing it off. And a lot of the videos, I do put the price of stuff. So, I do say that, this full body of beef here costs £2,000. So I can't slay 20 sirloin steaks and £5 out of it because I won't be here next week because we'll be bust.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what you're paying for. You're paying for that quality.
It's the age-old thing of what you put in is what you get out at the end of the day, especially with meat industry, isn't it?
I think it is with everything, to be fair. My granddad used to say you get two things in life, a good pair of boots and a good mattress, because you're in one of them all the time. You're either in your pair of boots or in your mattress, aren't you? So you need to spend money on their boots and a mattress and good meat to fuel your system.
Yes. So, how long have you been a butcher, young man?
Officially, since I left school at 16. Unofficially, since I could walk. We diversified from farming. We've always had farm. So we've always had, when I was young lad growing up, we had 2,000 battery hens. We had 150 breeding sows and we had run some store cattle. And butchering we had a small abattoir. And butchering side it weren't something that we pushed. It weren't something we did very much. First time moved on and my brothers and everything got older and older. We sort of led towards butchering a bit. We saw there would be more money in the abattoir side, so we invested in abattoir. And then about a couple of years before COVID, we invested in shop, and it just took off. And what's happened over years is we're not, because we're all on one outfit now, we're not allowed to keep livestock on the same premises as the slaughterhouse, just the cross-contamination. I think it was foot and mouth that ruined it. They said when people were bringing stuff into the abattoir, they were dragging through past our pig sheds and chicken sheds and one thing and another. They said we weren't allowed to cross-contaminate. One of them had to go. So we got rid of all animals and we just really focused on butchering, and touch wood up to now. It's been a successful story for us. It's gone from strength to strength.
Ideal, glad to hear it. Now, back when we had bovine spongiform ankylopathy problems back in '96, I gave up chefing to become a meat hygiene technician in the abattoirs. And my job was to do all the correlation paperwork for the meat inspectors. Very interesting, very much of an eye-opener. Coming from the catering background, I knew up to wholesale, but this was the doors behind the wholesale meat world. And it was very interesting, especially because we got to go to the big abattoirs, the little abattoirs, and then this abattoir that's been run by these two, like Bert and Bill, for like the last 50 years. and they still do it traditional, beef on a cradle, lambs hanging up, porks all mopped down and everything. And it was nice to see and gain that knowledge being chef background. But one thing I did notice, almost as soon as the BSE crisis stopped, a lot of the smaller abattoirs disappeared. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think they were put under a lot of pressure from ministry for rules and regulations, and the ones that were at the point where they were tipping over, they nearly had enough. BSE came, and it just wiped them all out. The problem with the slaughterhouses now, we have the same problem here, is the older generation are at the age of late 60s, early 70s, and if they've got no younger people behind them, there is no future for that abattoir, because you're not gonna get young people to work in abattoirs. They can earn a lot more money driving around in an Amazon van rather than starting an abattoir, putting up your rules and regulations, bureaucracy. We're having it now with DEFRA, and it's blue tongue now. There's always something in there. We've done BSC, we've done foot and mouth, but hammering us now with blue tongue. We're not actually in the blue tongue area, but a lot of our animals that we process are in the blue tongue area. And basically, the blue tongue is just a fly, like a mosquito that bites the animal, and it causes slow, painful death. The glands develop and they can't breathe and they die. It's
Yeah.
not harmful to humans at all. It's just something that's gone from animal to animal. But we've applied for a license, so we can't kill anything that's from a blue tongue area because we're a clean area. But a lot of our customers are in the blue tongue area, so we're losing money because they're going to the blue tongue area slaughterhouses. So it's taken. We've got the license today, but it's taken 3 weeks from DEFRA, and we've had to jump through hoops and everything just to get the license. And it's disgusting. This is people's livelihood, and DEFRA is just. It should have been, for the amount of abattoirs that's left in UK. This should have been. We've done all the work. We filled all the forms, and all they had to do was sign them off. It should have been able to.
Yeah.
They should have been signed off in 24 hours, not 3 weeks. And the information out there from one job to another, from what abattoirs are, the information abattoirs have got, the information markets have got, the information farmers have got. There's no there's nothing between it. Nobody knows what one person is doing and the other. So they've not been very helpful on any of it.
No.
And it's
All
another
right.
kicking teeth to abattoirs, isn't it? Older
Yeah.
boys, 70-year-old, can they be bothered to deal with paperwork? With another rules and regulations, bureaucracy that's going to become transparent with it? Can they be bothered to do it? I'd say not. They've probably made the money and they think, you know what, shut the doors, call it a day.
And the other thing, and I hate to say it, a lot of the older ones probably reading and writing was the bottom of their list. They took those jobs on because of maybe lack of education.
Yeah,
They were good with their hands, and they've made do up to now, isn't it?
it is. Yeah, it's my brother that fills all that. Like, my brother's 45-year-old. He's very, very clever. But even he struggled to get around the system to try and figure out what needs to be done to get these licenses in place. So I would dread to
Yeah.
think a late 60, 70-year-old man looking at them, it would be an absolute minefield. That I would imagine they'd just say, no, I'm not
No.
doing it.
It's like back when we had the BSE thing. Now, they always say farmers are cruel, callous, it's just an animal, it's just a number. You don't see farmers cry very often, unless it's a big hammer.
Yeah.
But I watched farmers come in with their entire herd that they had raised from calves. They knew every single beast personally, and they stood there with their eyes welling up, watching them go off into the lairage. And there's nothing you can say. They decided that was the farm that they were going with BSE with, and everything went. And it was heartbreaking coming from a farming background, because Dad sold farm machinery for most of my life, but before that he was a farmer, and so were my grandparents.
Yeah.
And to watch farmers just sit there dumbstruck, they didn't know what to do, especially the ones that brought their own loads in. And then 10 years later, oh, we had foot and mouth, and most people saw the repercussions of that. Log pyres everywhere, made out of railway sleepers so they did catch the light, and then thousands upon thousands of animals burnt to a crisp.
Yeah. for nothing really, was it?
No.
I mean, like I say, it's not just people's livelihood, isn't it? It's 3 or 4 generations of life
Yeah.
works just gone up in smoke, isn't it? And they do
Yeah,
get
this is the
nonsense title.
problem.
We breed 250 breeding ewes now. You know, our sheep. You get your favourites. You do get your favourites. And we go down with kids, and kids will get the bucket, and they get their own little pet lambs coming to them, and you know, you do get attached to these animals. And then you've got to put. But I think for me, us as a family, is you know, because we brought these animals up as we were born on site, and that we've fetched them right through to end. I won't necessarily say satisfaction, but you take great responsibility in knowing that that animal's had the best life you can give it, and then
Yeah.
you've mainly dispatched the end, and it's not suffered in any way whatsoever. Whereas if we were sending it to a market, selling it to a market, and then it off to one of our Asian friends' abattoirs where they're just going to chop his bloody head off, and you think, you know, I don't. It's not great satisfaction, but it's a nice knowing that that animal's lived its best life and it's been dispatched humanely, and it's going to the food chain, and people's going to enjoy it even at the end of the line. Right?
Yeah. When I worked the abattoirs, I did big ones, I did little ones. One of the sheep plants, 420 sheep an hour they run at. And it's just this constant blur of white, then pink, then pink a bit more, and then they're gone. The smaller abattoirs, it was nice, it was laid back, you got to see how they did it. Almost olden times, because they still carried on like that. They hot cloth the cattle when they finished skinning them and stuff. If they did 2 cattle from morning first knockdown to just after crib, that was it. Complete scrub down for lunchtime, and then they might do like 4 or 5 pigs or 6 or 7 sheep, and that would be it for the day.
Yeah,
But it's the old school way. They taught me how to punch out sheep fleeces, and to this day I still know how to do it. They taught me how to shave pigs and skin cattle and stuff, and they had the time to teach while they were doing the work, and they still got on with the work. As the bigger plants, it's everything was just a blur, you know.
yeah, and it is. I mean, we're still very traditional here. We're still very old fashioned. We kill maybe 300 or 400 pigs a week, 100 lambs, and maybe 7 or 9 cattle a week. But we're very slow at doing it. We're very slow. You know, we shoot cattle. We let cattle bleed. We bring them in night before to calm down. We walk them into a shed. There's no rush with them. We walk them into slaughterhouse. There's no rush. They just mosey on down. We shoot them straight away. We let them bleed out. We don't move them until they're bled out properly, and that
No.
reflects in the meat. The quality of the meat is part of the quality of meat. Is A, the cattle have been bred properly from day one, but B, the slaughter process is still very traditional, and there's a lot to be said for the traditional ways of things. The way that meat was processed years and years ago. You know, there were a lot more flavour and a lot more goodness in meat than a lot of years ago than what there is today. And one of the main reasons is that them traditions have gone. Everything's fast now, isn't it? You know, them cattle yards now, they're all up to like 300-400 head of cattle instead of 50 or 60 cattle. Sheep farmers
Yep.
are up to 1400-1500 sheep where they push the nut rather than just put on grass and left. And then they put on big wagons and sent to big abattoirs where they're just numbers, aren't they? And unfortunately, losing the numbers, getting bigger and bigger the numbers, is you are losing the quality of the meat at the end of the side. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got a dry ager in our butcher shop now. We've had it about 3 years where we're basically just dry aged meat, mainly just put ribs of beef in there, some sirloins. Now, when the guy fitted it, he said, "This is 21st century technology. This is we're going to cure the meat using salt blocks. This is it. You know, it's 21st century. It's amazing." I said, "Hang on a minute." I said, "I've got photographs of my granddad in old days in his fridge with massive salt blocks in there because there were no fridges. So all you've done is taken an old school system and blinked it up a little bit, pushed it up a little bit. But it's
Yeah.
not 21st century because things go around in a big circle here, because before fridges, people use these salt blocks to stop the meat going rotten. And all you've done is put a 21st century twist on it. So it's not brand new. I can show you the photographs of my granddad in the old day with great big fridges with salt blocks. So meat need go off. But it's then stuff hung, you know, they own cattle for 4, 5, 6 months before they touch them. You know, people now say 32 days. It's long. It's it's enough. But in the old days, the cattle they were killing were 15, 20-year old. They're 18, 24 months old now. So
Yeah.
it's a big
The
difference. They're
actual
only
beast
killing.
isn't mature, is it?
Yeah. So the old days, they had to hang cattle for so long because you could not have eaten enough. If you'd have said to me, Grandad, we've hung that beast 4 weeks, they'd laugh at you. It's saying you're not going to sell it 4 weeks old. You must be bloody stupid, you know. And the fridges went out that you like a young man growing up. They had mold this thick, and it's summer. Yeah, you could see maggots dropping off the damn things. But
Yeah.
it were never harmful to anybody. You just trimmed it off and you just sold it as it were, like.
Well, that was the only advantage working in the abattoirs. I could pick and choose what meat I wanted and buy it cost price from the abattoir. So I used to buy double X loin, and for our listeners, that's the entire sirloin on the bone with a fillet on the inside. Going back to 1996, this will bring back memories here. I used to pay 50.
Yeah.
So I'd be looking at about 28 8 and a bit ounce steaks for the sirloin, and probably about 14 or 16 fillets spent on the size of the bullock. I could pick which one, so very partial to the English breeds, Hereford, Angus, stuff like that. Not too keen on the continental breeds. I find the meat's just that little bit grainy for my liking. But I used to leave it for a minimum of 36 days hanging in the abattoir cooling fridges because I know it ain't no use until it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I bet
And
they were
Mum would
very
be
nice.
like, "Where's me meat? Not ready
But
yet."
I mean, your big slaughterhouses now are killing maybe 250, 300 cattle a day. How do they find room to hang all them sides of beef? Because
Because
next
it
day,
goes in on a Monday and it comes out on a Wednesday.
yeah. Well, we had a chap not far from me who used to send his cattle to Scotland. So a lorry had come down country, pick up cattle from farms, send them to Scotland where they were killed for Marks and Spencers, from I said. One day he got his passports wrong. So Slaughterhouse rung him and said, "Your passport's wrong. You need to bring it." He goes, "Well, I'll send it Royal Mail. It'll be there first thing in the morning." And they said, "No, it's got to be on our desk by 3 o'clock, or that beast goes in the bin." So he drove from here to Scotland. I think it took him 5.5, 6 hours to get there with a passport, dropped it off on his desk. And he said, "I drove back." And he said, "By the time I got home, I'd have got a fax through. And it told me who'd shot the beast. It had been boned out, vacuum packed up, and he was on a lorry on his way to Marks and Spencer in London."
Yeah.
And that would be the time he got home. Because they can't, you need some serious fridge room to hang 250 cattle a day, and you're going to hang it for 36 days.
Yeah.
Because you've got
They can't do it.
250 that day, 250 day after, 250 day after, 250 day after. Where do you put them all? You can't, can you?
No. One of the abattoirs down this way, no names, they used to supply mainly for Tesco's. And they averaged 450 kill a day for beef. And I thought, Christ, that's a lot. That's a lot of meat. I was chatting to an American friend of mine the other day. He used to work in an abattoir out there somewhere. Have a guess how many head they knocked down a day?
I can imagine something ridiculous, something like 800, 1,000.
Try 4,000.
Yeah. We've got
And you
family.
think,
Yeah, we've got family
hey,
in Texas, and they're ranchers in Texas, and they come here and have a look around, and they think it's amazing. They think it's absolutely bizarre and amazing how we kill things here compared to them, because they are literally
oh
they're,
my
they're
God, it's so quaint.
oh yeah, they'll have a wagon, and the wagon will take maybe 600 or 700 cattle off his yard on one wagon. And they'll send them to abattoir, and there's 600, 700 cattle from every farm in area all to the same thing. So yeah, and then everybody say, "How many have you killed today?" We go, 7. They go, "What, 700?" You go, "No, just 7." So yeah, but when they come on, they're a little bit like they think it's really bizarre. Them all they want to do out there is just kill things, don't they? And them Texans.
Yeah, if it moves, shoot it. If it don't move, shoot it just in case.
Yeah, that's what they like out there. But it's their own country, and you don't get on with it, don't you?
Well, when you look at the size of Texas, you could fit the UK in it 8 times. It's a big
Yeah,
old place, really, isn't it?
yeah, it's a big place. Yeah, I don't know if you realise how big it is. Yeah.
No. And I think Australia, you can fit the UK in something like 12 times. So Texas is almost as big as Australia. It's just one place. It's like, hang on a minute.
Yeah. So you do much shooting there, you're a shooting guy.
Yeah, I do deer and all the listed species, but I mainly do a lot of farmer pest control.
All right, yeah.
I love my air rifles and stuff. Do a lot of like corvid protection for lambs and stuff like that, rats, rabbits. But rabbits are on a decline. We've had mixes so many times. I know we've got this VHD and VHD2 that most of my shoots are devoid of rabbits.
Right. We've got still quite a lot around here.
I'll pop up then.
I go out shooting them with rifle, and there's if you go on a nice evening, you can generally get quite a few from around here. Like, I'm not going very far. There's quite an abundance, but we've not had mixie for a few years.
Well, we had that VHD rock through. I had a bad case of mixing on one of my shoots in 2001. The rabbits, most of them got over that. There was a few died. And then in 2011, we had that VHD roll through, and I had one rabbit left in 95 acres.
Yeah.
And I think the fox had it.
You should have got a fox then.
Well, yeah, there we go. But this VHD, it's what the vets inoculate all the pet rabbits for, but there's hundreds of rabbits out here that aren't even inoculated, and it's just an airborne disease. So if people aren't going to inoculate the pet rabbits, bear in mind how many pet rabbits are everywhere.
Yeah. No, they don't. They're a load of pets that are different species altogether. Pets, aren't they?
Yeah. Bit like all these animals that don't carry TB.
Yeah, well, you mean badgers. We've got abundance of
I
badgers
didn't
up
say a
here.
word.
Luckily, none around us. As the ones that we get seem to disappear very quickly. Before badger wash game.
It's because it's grim up north, lad.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, well, no one's them up here anyway, do they? They leave us alone up here, don't they?
Yeah. Oh dear, right. Carrying on. So you're a master butcher, fifth generation, I believe.
That's right. Yeah. My granddad were in World War Two. Eight years in World War Two. Active service in France, North Africa, where he spent most of his time in North Africa and Italy. He came back and bought the business with his army pension off his dad, who my granddad won a seven, and all seven of them got took to World War Two. Fortunately, they came back. My great granddad Frank was one of nine, and two died in World War One. So when World War Two come round, he couldn't physically cope with losing any more
No.
of his kids. So he amassed a bit of a gambling debt, and my granddad come back with his own pension and bought him, paid his debts off, and rebranded the business E.V. Slacker's son, which stands for Edward Vernon Slack, who was my granddad.
All right.
So a bit of history there, yeah. And then he let my dad. My dad took it on, and my dad's recently retired and let me and my brothers take it on. So now we're got the reins of the go in our line, and through social media we seem to be doing all right out of it.
Well, you seem very well put across on social media, and I think people like the video, especially the comparison one. And I think in this day and age, we need it, really, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's very important that people know where the food comes, especially. Well, I say especially the younger generation. We've got one of our main audiences, 50 to 60-year-old people. So that wasn't the audience we were after. We were after the younger people, which is why we took on TikTok. Because we were after them 18, 25-year-old people that mum and dad had always bought the meat from the supermarket. Because we're getting a lot of people that were coming to butchers for the first time, didn't really know what they were asking for because they felt intimidated. And to be fair, going to a butcher shop for the first time when you don't really know what you're asking for can be intimidating.
Well, you got a big bloke like you covered in blood the other side, a big knife. It is a bit scary.
It is, yeah. So we try to use social media to break down the barriers a little bit to show people that, when you're coming for a mince, it don't come in a packet, it comes loose on a tray. You need to be asking for, 500 grams a pound roughly to feed four of you. So just giving people an insight on what they should be asking for when they come to a butcher's shop. But what I noticed were people, they weren't very confident about buying steak. And it's because they got so used to eating supermarket steak, they didn't enjoy it. So they're seeing a tray and think, actually, it's quite expensive, so I'll just not buy that because it doesn't taste anything, it's chewy. So I'm not going to have it. And once now we've
Yeah.
got people buying the steak, they come back time and time again and say, in my head, that's what steak should have tasted like all them years ago. When people tell me they had a really good steak, I'd imagine that steak is what I've just eaten, is what steak should have tasted like all those years ago. So then they start buying and get more confident, and you start breaking down the barriers, and they start buying more, and they feel confident about going to a butcher shop and buying the local meat, and then they go to a fishmonger and they go to a greengrocer now, and so yeah, so that the whole idea behind the social media was, let's take down the barriers, let's join the dots, let's show people where the food comes from, let's show them it don't come in a plastic packet. There's millions of ways. There should be, if you're buying 25 sirloin steaks for £5, whatever, it's not good for the environment. It's not good for your health. It's not good for anything. So forget about it. Come to a butcher shop and buy a nice steak for £8 that you're going to enjoy cooking. And once you've cooked it and you've rested it and you've got a nice bottle of wine, you're going to sit there and you're going to enjoy every minute of eating that steak. So that's what social media are about. And I think with Abattoir as well, with Slaughterhouse and Farm, it sort of connects all three dots.
Yeah.
Whereas I know there's a lot of butchers out now trying to do social media and one thing another, taking pictures of steaks and pork pies and one thing, but it's just a piece of meat, isn't it? So whereas we're trying to show it starts life as this cow, we feed it all the way through, then we bring it in night before, then we kill it, and then we butcher it. So it's linked all the way through. I'm not going to show the slaughterhouse. I've had one or two people asking, "Can you take us inside with slaughter with cameras and one thing?" And it's back to the thing that how much do people want to see and how much do people need to see? Because for all its glory, it is a murder hall. It is a slaughterhouse. It is a place where we are dispatching animals, and do
Yeah.
people need to see that? Do people need to see that the death side of it? Is it too much? They can still relate to the steak and the cow, but do they need to see the death side of it as well? So at the moment, I've decided no, they don't need to see the inside of the abattoir just yet. It might be changed if we get more and more people requesting it, but I still don't want. I don't want to work so hard to get all these people coming to the shop all of a sudden. Emotions take over and they go back being vegetarian and vegans.
Yeah. The biggest problem at the moment is, we'll call it Disneyified, where everything's cute, fluffy, and adorable, but somehow we've lost the connection between cute, fluffy, and adorable, and it's now on your plate and you're going to eat it.
Yeah.
A lot of people moan at me, "You're a big cruel hunter," and load of swear words. How can you do that? They're cute and fluffy. Yes, they are cute and fluffy, and at the end of the day, like I explained to them, I have to make a judgment call to end that animal's life. Now, when I first started shooting nearly 40 years ago, we had open sights, so it's two slots, one slot in the front, you line it all up, pull the trigger, and that was the end of it. Now we've got, what's my big scope I've got? It's a 6 by 21 by 50 scope, and that allows me to look at the whiskers and eyelashes on a rabbit at 100 yards.
Yeah.
And yes, it's very cute, it's fluttering its eyelashes in the breeze, etc. But I've still got to make a judgment call and end that animal's life. And it's 4 or 5 seconds switch off where I disengage that it's cute and fluffy, pull the trigger, and then it's lying on the floor, it's now dead, and it's going to be meat within the next 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that think it's cruel, barbaric, and disgusting, but they go to the supermarket and, like you said, 5 steaks for a 5 or whatever. They quite happily do that, but they can't grasp the reality of how it got there.
No.
I think one of the biggest problems we've got, I saw a post one day during the weekend, I think it was Saturday, Somebody had bought some meat. I think it was a pork butt. They were going to smoke it. Vacuum packed. Opened it up. Oh, it's stinking. It's reeking. Well, you know yourself. The natural juices of the meat and the actual gas in the meat create quite a, we'll put it as a ripe smell sometimes, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And sometimes I think vacuum packing is wrong for things like that. But for other things, yes, it's fantastic. What's your thoughts on that? Bear in mind, you hang it up and chop it out of a fridge. You've got the space to do
Yeah,
that. But
we don't vacuum pack very much. We vacuum pack fillet steaks. Sole reason is with being so lean, they do turn really quick. And we get quite a lot. So, and the demand for fillet steak ain't as much as it is for sirloin steak. So, if we left them, they look terrible. They'd look even worse. So we do vacuum pack for them, but they're not in a bag very long. And I know some of the stuff. One of the things that we do with supermarkets, when I compare supermarkets, when I open it, there is a stench there. There is an aroma, and that can't be helping the meat trade at all.
no,
And they say they've got to do it, but they never used to do it, did they? It's only a new thing. It's only so they can preserve the length of time. The meat's better for longer eating in a vacuum pack. But you know, like we spoke about earlier about all them cattle that's in them fridges, you need a big fridge to keep killing 250 cattle a day. If you can bone them out and vacuum pack them, you've got a lot more space, haven't you?
yeah,
It's the main reason I would imagine that a lot of these big plants do vacuum pack is they don't have the room to hang the animals like they should have. So they break them down, bone them out, vacuum pack them up, put them on a shelf where they're starting the juices for 2 weeks before they enter supermarkets. And then the public seeing them, open them up. Ugh, it smells. I'm gone vegetarian.
yeah,
So yeah, we don't like I say we vacuum pack very little our spot. It's another job we don't really need to do at the moment. And we're busy enough. We don't. Our stuff's better on a car because we've got plenty of room to hang on a car. One of the reasons we don't do online deliveries for that reason at the moment. We're stretched in shop because we've got a lot of customers coming in from social media, that are buying meat. And I think that if we went online, we'd be even busier. And then all of a sudden, we need to change the way that we're doing to cope with that big demand. And we don't want it. You know, we're doing all right as we are. So pubs and restaurants, we stay away from pubs and restaurants because they all want, they want best gear for not a lot of money. And I think,
yeah,
well, why should I give you best gear? My best gear needs to be in that front counter. So these people that's coming from this door that's travelling from miles and miles away, they've got the best gear because they're making the effort to come. And like I said, at the moment, we've got enough room for what we need. Christmas is coming, so if you ask me that in a question in a month's time, we'll have no room. Every fridge will be full. We're sick to death of
floor
meat.
to ceiling turkeys, isn't it?
We have our own turkeys, so they're all just getting fat at the moment. But again, that's another thing we do with breeders' own turkeys.
What breed?
These are English whites.
All right.
We've had bronze. We had Norfolk bronze before. We had the Norfolk bronze before we started doing the videos. Now, it would have been a good comparison, really, wouldn't it?
It would.
Comparing a Norfolk bronze to an English white. But on the 100% generally, I could not taste the difference between a Norfolk bronze and a white turkey of ours. Now, I'm not saying that's not against them all. The ones that we were breeding ourselves, because they were living together, they were sleeping together, they were drinking together, they were eating the same food, they were in from Dales, they tasted the same. They
Yeah.
cooked the same. The Norfolk bronzes were a lot harder to pluck. So Henry just said, look, we'll just stick to the white ones.
Do you find, I see it on a lot of the smoking groups, I have to keep my mouth tightly shut. Do you find there's some snobbery with meat now?
Somewhat, sorry.
Snobbery.
No, not really, no. I think there's more snobbery around people's barbecues. The
Well,
old
prime
fashioned.
example, when I used to do chefing, I'm going back in the day, well, as I said, I was in the advertising in the 90s and I was cooking long before that. Hocks of beef, hocks of lamb, stuff like that. We used to throw them away because we couldn't get rid of them anywhere. Now, a couple of TV chefs pop them in the crock pot, 8 hours, you've got this lovely food of it. I pushed the price right up. Great for butchers and stuff. But for the general public, you can't afford it now because they're priced over what they used to be. That's what I'm on about. Stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe. I think the that's an argument because everyone says them cheap cuts that people used to get, like briskets and things like that, they are expensive now. But it's not necessarily just about people buying those joints more often now. It's the price of cattle, is they're a lot dearer now than what they used to be.
Yeah,
Uh, it weren't so long ago. We were buying cattle at £1,000, and we'd be like, it's £1,000. But on a beach at £1,000, you can still sell the cheap cuts, your briskets, your shins, and that were cheap. But now cattle's gone up to doubled. You've got to market them cheap cuts to bring them in line to make the beef viable. So maybe do a Thor's. Their perfect example is a Thor's hammer. It's just shin, and you would have just sold it
yeah,
as shin. But now we keep it on bone, we trim it, we make it look really nice, and it cooks a really nice joint because it's got the marrow bone in it as well. So when they cook it, all the marrow comes out of it, and it's fantastic. It's a lovely piece of meat. As a shin, they're probably worth a tenner, but we can get £30 from it as a shin on the bone, and
yeah,
they fly out because everybody's smoking. But that's not. I won't say that's snobbery. I think that's for butchers. That's trying to get a little bit more higher, lesser costs to make. Otherwise, we've got to charge twice as much for a sirloin steaks again and keep them cheap. So it's trying to bring everything in line. So you're not charging too much of one thing and not for the other lot.
yeah. Fair point. Fair point. It's just me being old and crotchety then.
Yeah. But we used to run a club, and she just packed it in today actually. And one of the main reasons she's packed in is because the older people that were buying it would say that when they used to come, they'd get a tray of lamb chops for like £15. And I say, yeah, but lambs were £70. We're paying £200 for a lamb now. They've more than doubled. So that tray of lamb chops they used to get, you don't get it anymore unless I source it from somewhere else, and then we've lacked on quality. So, and in all fairness, I think it's run its time. This club we run anyway. It were becoming a bit of a nuisance for what it were worth. The one now we were making out of it. So it's a bit of a blessing in disguise. But when she was telling me that, people were saying that the quality was the quality of the game were a lot better, but they weren't getting as much meat. And I'm like, but stuff's dear now. The animals are dear. It costs, once upon a time we used to get £65, £70 for a beef skin. We get £2 now. Sheepskins, they used to give you £4 for a sheepskin. We chuck them in bin.
Yeah,
Which cut them and chuck them in bin. So, you've lost that trade. Electric's gone up. Meat inspectors we've got to pay for. Vets we've got to pay for. Fridge motors are breaking. Staff's wages have gone up. So everything's a lot dearer. So that trade, it shrinks, doesn't it?
yeah. And I think as general public, they look in a supermarket and it's this amount of price, and that's all they see. That tray of meat is that price. Yeah, they go to a butcher and it's £5 a pound, love, or £15 a kilo, whatever. And I think a lot of people are put off by like the price step.
Yeah.
From if you said it's a steak and it's a fiver, they go, oh yeah, I'll have that one. But because it's sold as a price per value or unit, I think a lot of the general public are a little bit put off by it. I've heard people say about it. Like the older ones will stand there and work out the pence, pound, and kilos off it. But the younger ones just want that value on the front, and that's it. Do you find
Yeah.
that as well, or?
Yeah, we do. We found that with burgers. So we used to charge them like £13 a kilo for burgers. And you could see people were looking and saying, but now we just charge £1.20 per burger. And we sell loads. £1, how much a burger is £1.20? All right, yeah, I'll have 10. Whereas a £30 a kilo, they go, I'll have two burgers. Two burgers, because they didn't really know what they're asking for. But supermarkets
Yeah,
aren't priced to that. I've noticed this about buying meat when I go into supermarkets and buy meat. They don't put price on things. You don't like
no,
steaks and that. I couldn't physically tell people how much they were for steak until I got to checkout because they were only on the receipt that I checked how much the steak were, but it weren't actually on the packets. So they're used to that. People just run along, just throwing it in and not checking it. They don't even price them. A lot of the good steaks now were not priced.
no. Well, I've got three Tesco's, a Sainsbury's, and an Asda's all within 4 miles of here, plus your Lidl's and Aldi's and everything else. And they've stopped baking bread in the last 2 years. They've stopped the butchery counter, the fishmongers. Apparently, head office has conducted a poll and they're not needed. Who the hell conducted a poll and asked people? Because they didn't bloody ask me.
No. No, I think, and that's so there weren't real butchers in there, whether they were just getting stuff out of the packet one they're slicing up, and so we've got next door to us. We've got Tesco's, Morrison's, and Asda. They're superstores. They are massive, but they've all three of them. Morrison's are the only one that's got the butcher's carrying now. But I do walk around. I can't buy meat from him though, really, because the guys down there must watch my videos. Because when I walk in, I walk around with hat on, and I'm like, well, I don't really know what I'm doing. I just look and I think, oh, that looks crap, or that's a bit expensive. We'll do that this week. And when I grab it to take it out, I get to checkout, and they don't sell it me.
Send somebody else.
I guess I sometimes send my sister in that undercover like, but it's usually because my videos I don't really think about them too often. We just do. We don't think, we just do. We're going on. Let's do it. Come on, we've got 5 minutes. Let's do this. Let's do that. So everyone thinks they take a lot of planning in that, but they generally don't take any planning because we literally just do them on a whim. So if I'm passing a supermarket, I'll call in and grab something, and we'll do it next morning. Like,
All good fun.
yeah, it's all that fun. Yeah, good fun. But it's working because we've got, like I say, we've amassed quite a bit of a following, and we've got a lot of good trade. I think our shop trade about 60% better off because of social media and people coming in. 99.9% of people that's been have commented and said, absolutely fantastic, Slacky. It's worth the 3-hour drive. I will be back. And we're not doing anything different to a lot of other butchers other than we're taking this time. We're being traditional. We're honest. We're not selling people rubbish. That, if people come and they go, can I have 4 ribeye steaks? And I go, sorry, I ain't got ribeye steaks. Or I've got sirloin steaks. And the sirloin steaks are better. And they drive off and go, I don't really want a ribeye. And then they text me and go, mate, sirloin steak, absolutely phenomenal. I don't want ribeye anymore. I don't want sirloin. And that's the same thing with rump steaks. We do a lot with. I've had a big push on rump steaks because I got sick of people coming to the butcher shop and just buying ribeyes, T-bones, fillets, and sirloin, and nobody buying rump steaks. When I question people about it, they say, "Well, I had rump steak in a pub and they're awful, so I don't buy it." So everyone's approach is that they've had a rump steak in a pub or a restaurant, and it's not been overly nice, and they've paid £10, £15 for it, so they don't buy it anymore. And I go, "Yeah, that's pub steak. Try some steak. I'll have some rump steak. I'll cook you some really nice rump steak. Have a go at that." And then week after, come back and go, I'm converted. I like rump steak now.
If you've got good matured cattle, especially the good grass-fed beef breed, and they've a nice slow mature, been looked after well, not pushed and rushed at slaughter, fridged well, you'll get a good steak of most of that beef, won't you?
Yeah, yeah. And that's the idea of it's behind us. We don't want to get to a point where we're pushing things, we're rushing things through, which is, like I said earlier, which is the reason we've stayed away from online delivery, because to try and fill that market, we would have to push things, we'd have to rush things through, and it's not what we want to do. It's not why we set about doing it. We still want to be traditional. We still want to carry on the way we are. We don't want to be over the busy that we haven't got time for kids, or we spend even longer and longer in shopping. We do 30, I think we do 13.5 hours today. It's a long time still on your feet in a front counter.
Yeah.
So we don't want to do it anymore at the moment. Things might change, I don't know. But at the moment we're doing that, we're comfortable. We're comfortable. Which is, in today's world, it's a nice saying to be able to say, isn't it? You talk to some people and they're in a really, really, they are in a bad place. So when you tell people you're comfortable, they go, what do you mean? You're a millionaire? No, I'm.
Tax man, he said he's comfortable, not affluent, he's comfortable.
And end of the week, we've paid all his bills, all staff's been paid, and there's a little bit left. We're comfortable.
Yeah. You can treat yourself to a steak.
Do yourself to a steak. You can eat well.
I think, stop me if I'm wrong, But a lot of people used to go to the butcher shop maybe as a kid. Your mum or your gran would ask for a bit of meat. Butcher would disappear out the back, come back with a hunting great piece of meat, as if he's just like magically got one hanging out the back type thing. But you've done like the connection between your cutting room, the hanging box, and the chopping block and the counter, and it's nice to see the four things combined.
Yeah, and that's one of the. I'm trying to break down them doors. We don't want to hide behind them doors. I mean, DEFRA and your food standards agencies, your NFUs and them, so they're not helpful at all. They've not helped anybody. All they want to do is just they want all the doors closed because they believe that people don't need to see this, which is totally wrong because people do need to see this. People want to see where the food comes from, but again, they don't think they want to see every part of it, but they are interested in knowing where the food comes from. So when I stand there and I say this beast is a Simmental, it's a mile from this front door. In fact, he has never ever left this village. You know, the village it was born in Wadworth. It's been bred in Wadworth. It's been stored in Wadworth. It's been hung in Wadworth. It's been butchered in Wadworth. It's been sold in Wadworth. The only time it's leaving Wadworth is when you're taking it home. And they'll all of a sudden they've got a connection to that. And they're like, oh wow, that's amazing. Can you tell me all that anyway? Yeah, I can tell you everything you need to know about it. Oh, all right. And it's getting that connection back with people.
Yeah,
We are doing it. I think people are learning, but one of the main things is people. I get the same question message quite often, and it's saying that your videos are inspiring and they are they're very educational, and they're making me think all these years that I've been buying meat from so and so and one thing or other that I've been buying it wrong, and I've noticed that especially over the last few months that people that have been going to a butcher previous are starting to realise the difference between a good butcher and a bad butcher. And that's
yeah,
what it's not just about slagging supermarket stuff and saying they are bad, they're not doing it right, which they're not. There's also a lot of butchers out there, and it's trying to pick the good butchers and the bad butchers because I think as things start tightening up, people keep saying cost of living one thing, but I think one thing people will get kicked is probably the pubs and restaurants. I think people will not eat out as much. So I think that there's a good market then to come back to butcher and buy them joints of beef and cook at home. And I think if you're top of game and people they come and they're entertaining six friends and they've gone to decide that they're not going to go pub because it's going to cost them £700. They're going to come to a butcher. They're going to spend £150 on a lovely rib of beef, a middle at table, a few bottles of wine. They'll be £300 in. They're going to have a great night, but they want that beef to be special. They want that beef to
yeah,
sell. They're not because you're not just feeding. Your customer isn't just the one person that's bought that piece of beef. Your customer is the other people that sat around the table because you're trying to convince all of them as well. So if you've
yeah,
sold her a bad piece of meat, you've also sold all them people a bad piece of meat, and it's not doing you any favour. So you've got to hit everybody that's at that table. So I think we're doing that because we don't generally sell. I'm not going to blow my own trumpet, but we don't really sell much bad stuff. If we don't do it ourselves, we generally don't do it at all. A lot of butchers do all sorts of fancy stuff, and they go, "You're not doing that." I go, "No, because it's not us." People are coming because they want a pork chop with kidney in, because they can't get that in your shop. They want a big T-bone steak, but they don't want it like this. They want a big T-bone steak because they can't get that in your shop because you're doing it wrong. Okay. So yeah, I think people are coming back to traditional ways, which is good for us.
My biggest beef with, pardon the pun, places, especially the supermarket, shoulder is always English. I smoke 3 or 4 shoulders a year and do pulled pork. Do it myself. Love it. Every other cut of pork is either Denmark or Germany. I hate to say it, and apologies to anyone that's ever followed me around the shop. I do the thumb in the packet test. If my thumb won't go through the eye of the meat, I know how tough and shitty it is. And 9 times out of 10, all your pork chops and stuff are German, and they're shipped over. They might be cut in this country, so they get a cutting number that's UK, because it's one of those stupid loopholes, as you know. But they're all about 3/4 inch thick, and they're tough as old boots. And I've tried. The only way I've found of cooking them so far is slow cooker about 6 hours, and then they just fall apart when you try and pick them up.
Yeah.
Good pork chop. What are you talking about at Slacky's? Inch and a half, maybe? Or not quite that thick?
Depends how you're cooking it, doesn't it? Yeah, you need a good inch on a pork chop, don't you?
Yeah.
You do need a good point, and you've got to have brine as well. A lot of, most of the foreign pork that comes into the country is rineless, isn't it? Because your Germans and your Danish have had the best bits off, haven't they? So a lot of it's rineless, which it's just pointless, isn't it? What's the
Yeah.
point of cooking a joint pork with no rind on it? It's just defeats the object, doesn't it? The best part of the cooking is the actual crackling, isn't it?
And have you noticed supermarket pork won't crackle as well?
Well, I think
If it has got rind on it,
yeah,
useless.
I think that is back to backpacking. I think because
Yeah.
it's sat in wetness, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to get cracking in it, it's got to be dry, isn't it?
One advantage of hanging it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think when you're backpacking, it's sat in its own juices and that, and it won't dry out properly, will it?
No.
I mean, I'm terrible at cooking. I'll not lie to you. I can butcher anything, but my cooking skills aren't great. But even I can make a crispy skin on a crackling with very little effort. But we start with a good product, which makes the job takes away 40-50% of the aggravation, doesn't it? When you start with a good product, you generally finish with a good product.
Well, it's like in the kitchens, I always used to strive to buy the best to give my customers the best at the end of the day. Now, a lot used to moan, well, it's a bit expensive for that. Well, you go and buy a cheap one, and you come back to me when you're ready.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, people do, don't they? They blame cost of living, but I think it's cost of living now, is it? I think people are just lazy, aren't they? Now they're getting lazier and lazier, aren't they?
Cost of living is now, what, 4 years in? It's dead dog, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, once they're having to buy takeaways, there's takeaways on every corner, and they're not cheap. If you want a pizza, it's 40. The people say, "Oh, I had a pizza last night, 40 quid." I'm like, do you know if you go to my shop, I could feed you or your family 4 or 5 days on 40 quid. I could give you different vitamins, from stewing steak to mince to sausages to burgers for £40. I could feed your family for 4 days rather than. And the next breath, I ain't got no money to come to your butcher shop. I'm like, you just said you've invested 40 quid on a pizza. How many takeaways do you eat a week? We have 3 takeaways a week. Well, that's your monthly shopping bill. So how many takeaways do you have? I said, I don't eat any takeaways. We don't have takeaways in our house, so I refuse to buy them. We don't have McDonald's, we don't have nothing. We have good, artsy food. But, in saying so, my kids are 11 and 9-year-old, and they've never had a day of school in their life. They've never been poorly, neither any of them have ever been poorly. They've never had a cold, a flu, nothing. And and I would say that, good food is good medicine. If you eat the right food, you've got good medicine. Cold morning bacon egg. Nothing better than a bacon egg to warm me through. In summers, you stick to your salads, you put your beef in, and you've got to have meat, you've got to have salads, you've got to have fish, you've got to have protein, you've got to have all of it. And if you find that good balance, I mean, what else do you need?
As a species, we found that balance somewhere about 30,000 years ago, and we've stuck with it, haven't we? Well, some months have.
Yeah. Yeah, most of it. Yeah. I've had a vegan give me some ear egg today. Commenting on my post.
Block, ban, delete.
Yeah, well, occasionally I post one up on my wall just to get people talking. Causes traction, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can reason with most people, except most of these vegans. They've got it in their head that their way is the only way, and there is no negotiation, no nothing, and that's the end of it. An argument, just after the internet started, I'm on about latencies on a chat forum. I don't even know. I got on there. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I just couldn't sleep after a shift at work, and she's moaning about all the cute furry animals. So I gave an example. At the time, my godfather had about 300 York. They all threw twins, so every year he's got 600 extra lambs around. What are you going to do with 600 lambs? Oh, I'm going to keep them in my bedroom, was the response.
Oh, actually,
You can't make it up, man, honestly.
You can't now. So, I'm going to have to cut it short in a minute because my battery's about to die and I do need to go and lock the fridges up.
That's all right. You carry on, sir. It's been a pleasure and an honour chatting with you.
No, not a problem. Anytime. Thanks for inviting me on.
Now, where will we find all your social medias before you go?
Well, what, sorry?
Where are all your social medias? What's your...
So we're EV Slack and Sons on Facebook, and we are Slacky's One on TikTok and YouTube, I think. Yeah, EV Slack and Sons on Instagram and Facebook. I think we're doing really well on Facebook. I think we're nearly 200,000 followers. 200,000 followers on Facebook, and
That's not bad going.
I think we're about 185,000 on TikTok. So doing all right. People's listening.
Ideal. Before you go, do you find any hassles with people listening to like American TV shows and butchery shows? Because I know a lot are over there. And their cuts of meat are different to ours, confusing them?
It's not just America. We get from where we get North and South divide. They come from London with something or Scotland with an idea, and it's like, can I have this piece of meat? And I'm like, I've never heard of it. And I Google it, and I go, oh, you mean salmon or ribeye or whatever else, and you just called it something else. So yeah, there's a lot of different names for different cuts. But we always get there. As long as we've got a rough idea, and, you know, the strength of Google, we can figure out what they're after. But it's not just American. It's generally in Yorkshire. We're a bit of a breeder of them, so we call things a bit different in Yorkshire to the rest of the country.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Ideal. Well, thank you very much for your time, Matthew.
No problem. Thanks for inviting me on.
Pleasure.
You take
All
care.
the best. Greg, Countryman Story Podcast, and that has been Matt Slack. Pop him a visit. Cheers,
Thank
man.
you. Thank you. Cheers. Yeah.